Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Utility Safety and Environment Committee meeting for Wednesday, March 6, 2024. Just for the record, Mr. Oswald is out tonight. He's not feeling well. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of the February 22nd, 2024 Utility Committee meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Armstrong. Are there any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is the matter of the purchase of a new pumper truck for the Lirio Fire Department. Chief Perneski, welcome, sir.
Hello. So last year before, when we were talking about the amount of time it takes to build and get delivery on a fire apparatus, one of the things we've run into is that and the age, and trying to time the age where our pumpers have worn out and to get a new apparatus in. So I talked to the finance director, and we have purchased two pumpers. The city, just to refresh, the city has in service 3 engines, 3 pumpers in service every day. One at Cedar, one at 57 and Bell, and one on North Abbey. The pumper that's at North Abbey is a 2021. The pumper downtown here at Cedar Street's a 2021. And the pumper at Bell Avenue and 57 Station 3 is a 2016. That truck has given us, and I even at one time approached the law director on this, that we have had substantial amount of problems with that. We actually have put 2 engines in the fire engine. So it is given us all kinds of problems where I don't want to necessarily say it was a lemon, but we have had lots of issues. So my goal is to get that replaced. We also have what we call in reserve status, where we have 2 pumpers, one a 2009 and one a 2014, where they are fully equipped. They're just not staffed. And in the event of a maintenance where we have to take one of the pumpers out for routine maintenance or unscheduled maintenance, these go right into their place so we maintain coverage. The goal here would be to get that 2016 into reserve with the 2014 and sell the 2009, which we would be able to do with the company we're buying, I would like to buy the pumper from. So that would give us a pretty good, what I would feel a good, put our fleet in good shape. We are still up against the problem of high mileage. With the districts as big as they are, and with the EMS aspect, we're putting a lot of mileage on these, so we run into a lot of maintenance issues. So I would like to try to get it. The cost is skyrocketing. The pumpers, and I can get this exact figure for you, but the pumpers that we bought in 2021, I think they were around $600, and here we are 3 years later, and we're talking $1 million. And so I picked the wrong business, I think, to be in. I don't know, but it's only going to get higher. The longer we wait, it's just like anything else. The longer we wait, the more problems we could have, and that just puts us behind the 8 ball as far as build time. The build time's not going to go away. That the manufacturers have told us that it's just the way it is today with parts and getting people to build these. We build these from scratch, or they build them from scratch. Those 2 pumpers I talked about, the 2014 and 2016, those were purchased under almost like an emergency, to where we had to have them, we leased them. We got them off the lot, per se. They were not built to our specs. For instance, one thing that, because of the wear and tear that we put on our pumpers, we put bigger, stronger engines in them. We outfit them as far as their undercarriage, their shocks, everything. We reinforce them because of the wear and tear we put on them. So that's pretty much, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, but they're expensive, but unfortunately, they're a lifesaver also.
Chief, I have two questions. If the 2016 has been unreliable, why would we keep it? That's my first question.
I'll be more than happy to turn that in too. Right now it's in service because it's in better shape than the 14.
Sure.
So I would be willing to also, I agree with you on that.
You know, if we're putting money into it constantly.
Yeah. The reason why I said the 2009 is there are standards, just like you've heard up here many times, that after 15 years, the National Fire Protection Agency standard is it should go into reserve for 5 years. Okay, well, in 3 years, that pumper that's a 2009 will be really close to that 20-year point where the other ones won't be there quite yet. But I agree with you. I keep track of the amount of money that we put into each individual apparatus, and that 2016 far outseeds all my other apparatus as far as what we put into it. So yes, that's a great, yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Brunick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, a couple of questions to the Chief. First, is this, when we get these manufactured for us, is this through a state purchasing program? Okay, I assumed it was. And secondly, the funds, do you have them in your temporary budget? You have them scheduled to be in the permanent?
So when I spoke to the auditor, or the Finance Director Pileski, we originally put in for issue 6 money, and the amount was a little too much for that. So when we talked, the $900,000, according to Auditor Pileski, thank you, take over.
So the plan is to allocate $950,000 from the general fund when we order the truck so that we can have the purchase order and show the manufacturer that we have the money allocated. We would carry that over for each year until the truck gets here. We're not paying for it, but it locks in the price, and we have it financed essentially internally. So for those 3 years, we just carry that over on the budget. And then in 3 years, if that's the anticipated delivery, what we would do is we'd pull that $950 back into the general fund and quite possibly bond it over 10 years. And so that's the plan. But we have to set aside that $950 to show them we have the money basically, and get it started. But we're not sending it to them. It does lock in the price for us at where it's at now and gets the manufacturing started.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pianowski. Ms. Davis?
Through you, Chief, is this vehicle built in Ohio?
Yes.
Because I was down on the other side of Columbus, between Columbus and some.
That's where we're getting it, Suffolk Company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, did you have a question?
Yeah, and the Safety Service Director Pianowski, I spoke with the Finance Director through text messaging, but in regards to how it was going to be funded, so I was going to make mention of that, but Mr. Pianowski took care of that. I mentioned something to Chief prior to this. If he can just kind of give us a broad across of what equipment he has currently, just so there's an understanding for all council members, because it's going to go to Finance. Chief, just in regards to the 16 and the 2014, we bought those off the lot. Did you say that?
I call it off the lot, but
you had to get it to your specs. So I guess there was a cost to that then too, on top of getting it to the spec? I guess I'm just trying to...
No, they were, so when I say they were purchased off the lot, they were already built. These fire apparatus companies build a certain amount, and then they have them available, God forbid, if a city's fire apparatus gets in an accident, or it just gets somehow... They're there for an emergent need for a city. The problem is that if you don't build them to your specs, or what you face in your city day in and day out, you're kind of at the whim of that piece of equipment, or it doesn't quite fit your needs. The problem with those 2014 and 2016 is they were built to the engines are smaller, the overall wear and tear, they weren't designed for, again, I don't want to get into, but since we don't have ambulances, okay?
Sure.
In cities that run fire-based EMS, where they run an ambulance, so they go through ambulances every, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. In our city, we provide a very valuable service with our paramedic engine companies. The downside is that we do put mileage on them. We do run them through the streets, and we're a very busy fire department. So, but the 2014 and 2016, they weren't built to, for those with the stronger things that you need, the shocks, the tires, the engine, everything. Building the pumpers from scratch to our specs allows that.
Sure.
And they last longer, and that you build them for your housing stock. Everything you build, how it carries its hose, how much water it carries, its compartment layout, how many people, all that has to take into consideration to our city.
And through Madam Chair, one more follow-up to that. So $950,000 for that. And then what's the lead time? The lead time once we put this into play, is it?
Well, my hope would be that if we can get this through, that the director would, I think, pretty much has to sign a promissory or whatever over with Suffin to say, let's go, we're ready. My hope would be by the end of this month, the beginning of April, that is taken care of, and then we're on the clock with Suffin, the company we're buying this from, or I would like to buy it from, just like the aerial, to where everything was signed off on, agreed, and we're just given a number in the process.
So there's not you don't know it. I mean, you'll get that information, I guess, is once the documents are in, or
once
are you
it's in,
saying
let's
2
say it would
years
be
or
3 years from April 1st. That's what they go by.
3 years?
So let's say he takes care of things April 1st, and Suffin has that paperwork. Our 3 years starts April 1st.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief
Thank you.
Boneski. Mr. Stewart, did you have another question?
No, that was it.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. Thank you, Chief. We have considered the matter of the purchase of a new pumper truck for the fire department, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to purchase the said pumper truck for the Elyria Fire Department. Emergency clause is requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Armstrong. Are there any other questions?
Call for the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief Boneski. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the matter of the Murray Ridge Water Tower Improvement Project. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Today, we're looking to go out for bids for repainting the Murray Ridge Water Tower. As part of that project, we plan on doing some safety improvements as well as some water quality improvements. These are pretty standard nowadays when we touch our water towers. The water tower was constructed, I believe, around 2003, 2004. That's when it first went up. It's part of the Southwest Pressure District. The proposed not to exceed figure is $1,050,000 to complete the work. It's pretty typical stuff that we're going to be doing out there. When we take the water tower down, the residents shouldn't even notice the pressure because the booster pump station that supplies that tower, we're able to run it on pressure alone. So it's one of those, once again, things we built in 2003, forward-looking, so that when the tower is down, the pressure can stay where you like it over in your neighborhood.
Thank you. That's the water tower that is right by the jail, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Schneider? Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I'm sure this water tower is probably supplying all those new homes that's coming up over in that area, that's off of West Ridge, all the way over, almost to Bechtel?
If you're talking right there by, across the church open door?
Yes, down.
Yes, so that's part of the same pressure district. Yes,
So this helps supply that area,
correct. Back in 2003, the city of Elyria had areas in the city that where the water pressure was low. And the reason why it was low is because of the elevation on the west side and the southeast side of town were a lot higher than the north side. So people don't realize it, when you drive from the city of Elyria to our water plant in Lorraine, you're actually dropping 100 to 120 feet. That's how much of a difference it is. That's why the pressure, when we pump from the plant, is a lot higher than we have here. So when it gets into the city then, based on the topography of the city, it kind of dictates your pressures. So in 2003, council passed ordinances to allow us to basically separate the one big giant water district into three. So now the southwest pressure district, which runs essentially West Ridge, Murray Ridge, Infirmary, all the way up to Lowell Street, is one pressure district. And then the southeast pressure district, which has a pump station at the base of Clark Street, and that supplies the eastern half of Taylor Street, Turnus, Chestnut Commons area, majority of everything south of Chestnut Ridge, as well as some areas north of Chestnut Ridge, all the way over to Rural King and into the township as well. As well as it also supplies water to city of Ridgeville. So now because we have these pressure districts, at least that one, we're able to have a higher pressure in that area for Ridgeville, who traditionally has had a higher pressure than us. So we're able to sell them water more easily, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John, what's your timeline for bidding on this?
I don't think we'll need an emergency on this one. By the time we go out for bid, open them and award it, will be, I believe, past what
Thank you.
is needed.
Just through you, Madam Chair, just and then what's the timeline as far as like out for bid and all that, but like expectation of the project completion and everything?
This water tower is a smaller tower. Actually, it's our smallest water tower. We plan to get it bid out sooner than later, but at the same time, some of the equipment's going to take a while to get. And so we're looking at hopefully completing this work in early fall.
Just to follow up through that, with all the building that's been mentioned in this conversation, and that you just mentioned that that's the smallest water tower, what does that look like for more development down the road? Is that, not to put you on the spot, but I mean, is that enough to handle all that? I mean,
at this time, it's no problem. Once again, it's supplied through a booster pump station. So the water tower kind of acts as a pressure relief as well as fire protection only. So the booster pump stations take care of they do the heavy lifting as far as the water. If we ever had to get more water in there more quickly, it would be increase the pumps possibly first. So, yeah.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Snyder? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. Oh, I haven't, sorry. We have considered the matter of the Murray Ridge Water Tower Improvement Project, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for said project. And Mr. Brunick, does the dollar amount need to be on the committee report?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay. To advertise for bids and enter into a contract for said project. Can I get a motion, please?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Armstrong. Are there any other questions?
Call for the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the matter of discussing the selection project of reviewing residential streets for street paving projects. This is referred by Mr. Sarah. So, Mr. Sarah, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, first of all, I want to make it clear that, you know, since I've been on council, I know the first few years we had very few dollars to work with, and then, thankfully, we got issue 6 passed. And since that time, we've been trying to do due diligence up here at the table and divide this money equally, every year. And, it works out well up here, and it looks like it's really fair, but, the numbers that I'm starting to see, right now I got 28 streets on the list that they handed out last week. And the closest one to me is 20, and, and then some of them are down to 10. If we keep doing it equally, I don't see where I'm ever gonna get caught up. Some wards may be doing streets for the second time by the time I get through my first list of streets. And I didn't know if there would be some other way to do this. I didn't know if, letting engineering or streets or whoever, pick the first 5 or 10 worst streets throughout the city, irregardless of where they are. And then any money left after that would be divided up equally between the wards. I know it's a difficult, situation, and I'm not really sure how to proceed. I don't know why we're so far behind. It was like that when I came in. I've had conversations with John and a couple other of the engineers. Some of them, John, you mentioned the age of the streets had, potentially something to do with this, as far as the disparity between the wards?
Every ward really has its own unique characteristics. Yes, there are some wards that have newer roads, a lot newer roads, concrete roads. Some have wider roads. Some have better drainage than others. There's a lot of factors that go into really what makes a road stand up to the test of time. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of factors.
Engineer Schneider, with all the road work that's going on in Mr. Serra's ward, are some of those streets that he's speaking of, are they gonna be done as part of that big dig process?
Well, some of them have, and yes, will be completed. I mean, we still have, obviously, Poplar Street, most of that was done, some more to be completed. Portions of Harwood Street will be completed, Dilworth Street will be completed, Gulf Road will have, which I can't remember exactly where all the boundaries are, will be completed, as well as Cleveland Street, that's part of the Cleveland Street project, East Bridge, Broad. So there's a lot of projects going on, a lot of streets going on. And I will say that the one thing is, we do have a lot of streets on these lists, but we are seeing less and less ones pop up, which is a good thing. So we are attacking a lot of them. I don't have a complete list yet as far as this year's goes, but I know the inspector who's been out there, who has half of them done already. We don't have as many ones as we have had in the past, where every ward's got 4 or 5. And, we're getting down now to maybe 1 or 2 per ward, and you're going to 2s and 1.5s and all that good stuff, at least. But
And I think that is especially thanks to issue 6. We're getting more money and we're able to do more streets, but let's have a conversation. I mean, I don't know how to make it any more fair than what it is. What do you all think about having engineering rank the streets and doing the 2s or whatever? Mr. Serra?
Just not on that exactly, but you had mentioned about Poplar Street and what streets got done through the projects. Poplar Street and some of that stuff was never on these lists. The other thing, the downside to those projects is the streets that are taking a beating right now because of all the heavy equipment and stuff like that are traveling on them. For example, Harwood, that's the detour. That street's gonna have to be done, and that's not part of the project. Only a small section of that is. So that's gonna be another one that has to be added to the list.
Ms. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair. I feel that I don't think we're tapping into our street department as much as we should. I think they should be able to do more than just to patch the holes. Surely we have equipment sitting out there that they could use to help do some of this blacktopping on these streets. I have a street that's so small that runs off of West River, maybe have 6 houses on it. It shouldn't even be on my list. the city should be able to do that. You know, it should be some things, I think, that our street department should be able to do. Now, I was out all day. I was out for over 4 hours, and all these holes and stuff, where was they at patching holes? You couldn't find a truck.
I don't think they can patch in the rain.
It wasn't raining.
Oh,
I had a beautiful day.
okay, okay.
I had a beautiful day. I'm just saying, I just think we need to look at why the street department can't do some of this work.
Mr. Snyder, you care to speak to that?
I'll speak to what I can. I obviously don't run that department, but, I mean, potholes, that's a complaint-driven process. They pretty much rely on the public as well as you all to, tell them where the potholes are so they can fill them. I know a number of years ago, we had a street paver, and that was, I will say, over the years, we've lost a lot of people in the street department, as well as a lot of experience. I know the city of Lorraine, when we went out there a few weeks ago and visited their CMG to take a look at that, and I was able to talk with their street guy. They have 30 people in their street department. They bought a brand new mill machine. They have a paving machine. I don't know how they're funding it all. I don't know how they're doing it all, but they're doing it in Lorraine. They have more experience, I'd say, with some of their people. You know, over the years, a lot of the experience that we've had, they've retired and moved on, and it's unfortunate that we don't have that anymore. And so they are limited on some things. Yes, I think there's things they can really maybe step up on, you know, especially like concrete roads where you just have one bad piece of concrete, go out there, replace that so it protects the rest of the road. Crack sealing's always been a very good thing, especially on residential roads.
Right.
They could do a lot of those. I would not want them out on, like, State Route 57 or things of that nature, contract that type of stuff out because of the sensitivity of those projects. But, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a question for Preston as far as what he feels his guys are capable of.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
Through you, Madam Chair. The crack seal, shouldn't that be done every 3 or 4 years?
It's done every
Streets
year.
that we're done?
That's pretty typical. We used to do a lot of crack sealing out of our street department. We used to have a crack sealing machine as well, and over the years that was scrapped out, I know. But, you know, a lot of times when you buy the crack sealing material, if you play it right, you can get the machine basically for free, you know, at a short-term lease, provided you buy enough. But yeah, I do know the last time I was in a meeting, they did discuss possibly doing more crack sealing from the street department side. We've been contracting some out over the years, which utilizes the muni motor vehicle tax partially too. So yeah, yes, as you said, as soon as the cracks form, we want to get out there. Typically, it's 2 to 3 years after it's been paved is the best time, as well as just staying on top of them. Concrete roads, they will last a long time if they're properly crack sealed.
Mr. Pianowski?
Through you, Mrs. Chair. I just wanted to point out that our street department has 13 employees. So when we went out to Lorraine, I was with Mr. Schneider on that viewing of their CMG facility, and they did have some equipment that we don't. And I was part of that conversation. I mean, that's a significantly more larger department. I think it would require a significant investment from the city, not just in personnel, but also in equipment. And I think that we would certainly, I'd have to talk with the current street department supervisor to find out what skills we currently have that would, you know, be of that quality, of that type of work. But I think we'd probably have to invest in some folks that have that experience that can come in, because obviously we don't want to do, if we were to take on some of that of doing roads repairs, we would want it to be done right for safety reasons, but also just for, we're not out there revisiting the same road over and over again. So I do think there's a certain type of skills that we'd have to bring in-house to tackle that. I do think it would be a pretty significant investment for us to go in that direction. But should that be the desire, we could explore that possibility, but that would be probably a long-term plan and a a budgetary thing we'd have to sit down and really work through.
Sure, and being honest, 13 employees that's not a lot at all. I didn't realize we had so few employees in streets, so, and I appreciate what those guys do, I really do. I mean, if you get with Preston and let them know, or Mr. Curtis, excuse me, and let them know that there's a pothole, they're usually right on it, so I appreciate that. Mr. Stewart?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So, just a thought. I mean, it's the first time I'm engaged with this utilities and how the streets and doing that. So, generally, once the list is chosen, and then we have alternates, right?
Yes, sir.
So, is there a way that, not to specifically gear everything towards Mr. Sierra's ward, but is there a way that maybe he's assured, just for consideration, assured maybe one or two of those alternate streets so that he can maybe make an effort to catch up? And then the following year, you know, we don't do that. You know, I'm just trying to catch up where he can get up out of his 28 streets. Is that what you said, Jack?
Yeah, right at the moment. Now, you know, in all honesty, not all of them are number ones. You know, some are 1.5s, 2s, but we're getting to the point where some of these other wards, you know, Ward 3 has got 10 streets on this list. And I know this is not a complete, but it's gonna be getting to the point where we're gonna be paving 2s and 3s around the city, and Ward 7 and, you know, a couple of the other ones probably are gonna be still trying to fight through their 1s. You know, and that's where I don't think that's fair to the citizens necessarily. The way we've divided the money up here has been very fair, and you and I have had that conversation, Madam Chair. The one thing that really got me going on this was last year when we had the discussion, I had requested a extra $1 million of ARPA funds, and we did get it, which took us to the $3 million mark, I believe it was. And there was at one point $160,000, and you made the comment, let's give it to Mr. Sarah. And before you had that comment out, there was 2 no's right away. There wasn't even a discussion about it. And I think that's what really fuels a lot of this. We should at least be able to talk about that stuff and find out, maybe it is fair to give one ward a little extra this time around. You know, and I mean, this is going forward. This is not just for my problem right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Armstrong, did you have a question?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Mr. Snyder, do we own a skid steer and a millhead?
Yes.
So that means we are capable in the street department to operate those, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they typically go out there when we have bumps, like the ones on State Route 57, some that we've had on West River Road, and they'll mill those down to pretty much get rid of the bump. So that's what they typically use it for. I don't know what else they use it for, but that's largely what I've seen them use it for in the past.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. Snyder. So to bring this conversation back, the suggestion was made by Mr. Stewart to perhaps give Mr. Sarah's ward the alternate, maybe 1 or 2 alternates this time, so that he can catch up. What are your thoughts, feelings, opinions? Mr. Stewart?
No, that was, I mean, through you, Madam Chair, that was just an idea I thought. I know that everyone's fighting for their wards to get more streets, and I understand that. It's just a suggestion, maybe it's, whether it's this time or the next time, the following year for next year's budget, you know, to kind of see if he can't just kind of peck away at some of these things. And to, more so onto his point, I don't think he chose the path of going down Poplar Street up the,
Sure.
you know what I mean? It was a path that was given, and that's just a requirement that we have to do for the Ohio EPA. It is what it is. I'm sure he's benefiting from that too, but to his point, they're struggling with the other streets because people are using it as a cut through to get around the traffic. So it's just a suggestion, just to kind of help out over and through there, or maybe it's just one, and then there's another ward that gets, who is lacking behind in that to get that other alternate street. That's just a suggestion.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, I see no problem in and I see his list. I see no problem in, because we all usually have like one extra street. I see no problem to putting that money over in Ward 7. We get our streets, and instead of us getting an alternate, let it flow over there to help to alleviate some of that. We're all working together. So as long as we get ours, get the amount, and then whatever, we always, like we say, we always have an alternate street. Let the alternate street go to him. Let him find $10,000 or $20,000 to fix a couple of side streets that's not that bad. Whatever it is, whatever the alternate street that we would have, let him have it.
And so you're suggesting that each ward give an alternate?
An alternate him.
I'm cool with that. Mr. Armstrong, did you have a question, comment? I thought I saw your hand up there.
Yeah, actually I do, through you, Madam Chair. I think we need to have everybody here discussing this, or bring it to at least everybody's attention. I could be fine with this, everybody else up here right now could be fine with this, but then when we really vote on it, are we gonna have a whole bunch of no's? And then we're back to Mr. Sarah and myself having over 25 streets.
Well, the way this works is we're the Utilities Committee.
Sure.
Mr. Lippian is a ward council and Mrs. Zaworka is a ward council, so we can have that discussion with them as well. The at-large, I'm not gonna say that they're not involved, but usually they're not. This is something that the ward council members do.
I'm fine with that.
So I agree with you. So we're just having a discussion tonight. We can continue this conversation. Hopefully Mr. Lippian and Mrs. Zaworka can come to the next meeting and we can, like I said, continue that conversation. But for me, I'm okay with giving Mr. Sarah an extra street. If they're not, then they don't have to, you know. It would be nice if everybody did, but yeah. Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's not like that we're taking really from what we already have, but we always usually get one alternate street.
Maybe one or two.
Yes, and so to give him that extra is not gonna hurt him.
Because you're still gonna get your main
Still gonna
streets
get
done.
your main, so give him that extra, so whereas you would maybe done 13th Street and there's an alternate, no, just give that to him and wait till next year and 13th is be on your top of your list. Thank you.
Mr. Sarah?
To you, Madam Chair, and I do appreciate that, and I think that, would be a good start. I would not want to do that, taking away somebody's number ones. I want to be clear about that.
We would not do number ones, it would be
Even the
alternate.
alternates would have to be twos or threes,
Right.
because I can put a one in there without a problem.
Right.
I guarantee that.
We would not take away anybody's ones, it would be twos or threes, for sure, for
Right.
sure. Sorry, I went blank. Are there any other questions, comments? No. I think this is a good discussion, I'm glad that we're having it, and I'm glad that we were able to come up with a solution. I say this every year, and it's because I truly believe it. As ward council members, what we do with streets is the most important thing that we do. Our residents want their streets done. As much as people complain about the construction, they want their streets done. So as a ward council member, this is the most important thing we do. And I think we do it well. I think we have a good process in place. I think it's fair. Engineering is outstanding. The ride-alongs with Mr. Forthover have been outstanding, and I truly appreciate it. So, any other comments, questions? If I could get Murray Ridge done, Mr. Snyder, I would be extremely happy. Oh, Mr.
To you, Madam
ignoring
Chair,
me.
I just wanted to thank this committee for taking the time to listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing it to our attention. If there's nothing else to come before this committee, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. It's been properly moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Good night, everyone, and thank you so much.